Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
Hello, I'm Tom Wilkinson, and welcome to the Thinking in English podcast, a podcast for intermediate to advanced level English learners. In 2019, I enrolled in a Chinese language school in Taiwan. Today, I want to talk about my experiences. I'll discuss why I decided to go to a language school, what an average day at language school looked like, the benefits and challenges of language schools, and give you all some tips and advice on how or if to choose an English language school. You can find a full and free transcript for this episode on my website, on Spotify, and also on Apple Podcasts. And shout out to Lingoda for sponsoring this episode. More on them later. Here is today's vocabulary list. Enroll. Enroll. To register or sign up for a course, school, or program. As in, she decided to enroll in a French language class to improve her speaking skills. Curriculum. Curriculum. The subjects or courses offered by a school or educational program, as in, the school's curriculum includes science, mathematics, and art classes. Accountability. Accountability. The responsibility to justify your actions or results. For example, teachers have accountability for their students' academic progress. Intensive. Intensive. Requiring significant effort, energy, or focus within a short time frame. For example, the company offers a 2-week intensive training program for new employees. Stipend. Stipend. A fixed regular payment, often for educational or living expenses. As in, graduate students receive a monthly stipend to cover their living costs. Immersive. Immersive. Providing a completely absorbing environment, often used in language learning contexts. For example, the immersive language program requires participants to speak only Spanish for 6 weeks. Exactly 4 years ago, I was sat in a classroom in Taiwan studying Mandarin Chinese. Although I don't remember too much Chinese language now, attending language school was such an amazing and unforgettable experience. I have tried learning languages, mainly Japanese and Chinese, in almost every way possible. I have taken free community classes, online classes with a private tutor, textbook study, university language classes, language exchange groups, study applications, and at a dedicated language school. At least once a week, I get a message from a Thinking in English listener asking about my thoughts on or recommendations for language schools. So today, in this episode, I'm going to share my personal experiences attending a language school and provide advice for anyone listening who may be considering language school as an option. Then, in an upcoming Patreon bonus episode released later this week or maybe next week, I will be interviewing a very special guest about her experiences studying at a popular English school in London, which I think will be really useful for all of you considering studying in the UK. However, I know for many of you, studying at a language school in the UK or another English-speaking country is unrealistic or just not possible. What is possible, though, is taking online classes and courses with experienced language teachers. That is why I am so happy to partner with Lingoda, the incredible online language school, to offer Thinking in English listeners some amazing deals on English language classes in 2025. In particular, I want to talk to you all about Lingoda Flex. With Lingoda Flex, you can take English or business English classes from the comfort of your own home. You can choose a study plan that matches your goals and your free time. There are classes on Lingoda 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so you are free to choose and plan your own schedule. Each class covers the core English skills, and the teachers will make sure you get all the feedback you need to improve. If you like studying in groups, Lingoda offers affordable group classes. If you prefer studying alone, there are some amazing teachers offering individual classes on Lingoda Flex as well. You can cancel or change your Lingoda Flex plan whenever you want. It really is flexible. If you like the sound of Lingoda Flex, click the link in my description right now or use the code THINKING2025. In fact, if you use my code, you will get up to 45 free Lingoda Flex classes in your first 3 months and a 10% discount. Up to 45 free classes and an extra 10% off. Use the code THINKING2025 or click the link in the description. While I've talked on this podcast about my attempts to study Japanese, I've not gone in depth on my Chinese learning journey. This is because I'm no longer studying Chinese, although I'd like to start taking classes again this year. To get to the origin of my Chinese language journey, we have to go back to July 2018. I had been living in Japan for 2 years, working as an assistant language teacher, and was about to move back to the UK. I had been accepted into the Asian Politics Masters Programme at the University of London School of Oriental and African Studies, SOAS, and I was excited to continue studying Japanese while learning more about Asia. This is the main reason I chose SOAS. They were ranked in the world top 25 for political science programs and have an amazing language school. However, when I enrolled at SOAS, I faced a challenge. After living in Japan for 2 years, I had managed to reach an intermediate level of spoken Japanese, but I couldn't write anything. The Japanese tutors at the university placed me in the pre-advanced class based on my speaking, but the upper beginner class based on writing. They told me that if I wanted to study Japanese as one of my university classes, I would have to take the beginner course, which would have been a waste of my time. So, I decided to take an evening class in Japanese, so not part of my degree, and instead enroll in another language course. As an East Asian politics student, the two obvious options were Chinese or Korean, and the Chinese classes fit perfectly into my schedule. Although it was tough initially, I really enjoyed studying Chinese. I found the whole process fascinating. Writing out Chinese characters, learning the new grammar, and seeing myself improve every week. During a meeting with my supervisor at SOAS, a British professor who is one of the world's leading scholars of Taiwanese politics, he mentioned to me that the Taiwanese embassy, technically trade representative office, because Taiwan doesn't have legal embassies in the UK, but the Taiwanese embassy was holding an information event about scholarships and study opportunities in Taiwan. I attended and was interested by one specific scholarship called the Huayu Scholarship. This was for people who wanted to attend language school in Taiwan. The scholarship would last 3, 6, or 9 months, provide a stipend for tuition fees and living costs, and give some support in applying to language programs. I applied to the scholarship, and amazingly, I was awarded the 6-month version. I then had to choose the language school I wanted to attend. There were many good choices in Taiwan, and I applied for 3 or 4 different options, but eventually I settled on the Chinese Language Center at NCCU, which is a top Taiwanese university. Why did I choose this language school? Well, it was a top-rated language school at a good university and located in a quieter part of Taipei, Taiwan's capital city. But actually, the main reasons were the price. NCCU, language school, was cheaper and allowed language school students to stay in the cheap student accommodation. And also a personal recommendation. My supervisor, the British professor, attended NCCU himself when he was studying Chinese. I finished my master's degree in September 2019, and 2 months later, I boarded my flight to Taipei to start my language school experience. While every language school will be different, I think it would be useful to give you an insight into what my life at language school looked like. First, you should all know that Taiwan's Chinese is slightly different from China's Mandarin Chinese. There are some small differences in accent and vocabulary, but the big challenge is that Taiwan uses the traditional Chinese alphabet, while mainland China uses simplified Chinese. Traditional and simplified refer to the letters, the characters used when writing. Basically, Taiwan's written Chinese tends to be much more complicated to read and difficult to write, even though it's the same language. In the UK, I had been studying simplified Chinese, so I had to adjust to using traditional characters. The classes were split into different levels. If I remember correctly, there were classes ranging from absolute beginner to proficient. After 3 months, you are supposed to progress up to the next level. I started in a beginner class, not the absolute beginner, and then I moved up a level, and then I was also doing extra, more difficult homework by the end of my time in Taipei. My first class had 6 students in it, and the second class had 8 students. There were a mix of types of students enrolled in the language school. Most of the students were either exchange students from universities across the world doing a semester or year abroad, or international students enrolled in undergraduate or master's degrees at the main NCCU university. I was different. I was a privately enrolled language student. I was just in Taipei to study Chinese full-time. The teachers at the language school were great. They were professional teachers following a textbook curriculum, but they really helped to bring out my confidence and target my strengths. I was progressing faster than many of my classmates, as I was a full-time language student, while many of my classmates were also taking classes at business school or the law school. The teachers noticed this, so they gave me extra tasks to make sure that I was fulfilling my potential. There were 3 hours of classes every day, 5 days a week. Classes started either at 8 a.m. or 1 p.m. There were also extra workshops or activities you could enroll in a few times a week. I took a pronunciation course and a calligraphy class as well, I think. An average day for me as a language school student would start at about 9 a.m, getting breakfast with a classmate. Then we would spend 2 hours studying, learning vocabulary or finishing homework. We would eat lunch and then go to class at 1 p.m. After class finished, we would study for another hour or two before taking the train into the city to visit a night market or hot pot restaurant for dinner. I treated studying Chinese as my full-time job. I tried to do at least 6 hours of study every single day, often more. When my class switched to the morning after the first 3 months, I would spend the whole afternoon studying before going to eat dinner. Living in Taiwan in a Chinese-speaking environment really helped. I was able to immerse myself in the language. I attended language exchanges at the university in the evenings, or went into the city with Taiwanese friends to order food from night markets. I had the opportunity to hear Chinese and use Chinese every day. I still remember the gradual improvement in ordering food I experienced. There was a lunch restaurant in my dormitory. When I first moved in, I couldn't read anything on the menu. Every week, I understood a little more of the menu, and I could ask more questions to the staff. I also gained so much cultural knowledge living in Taiwan. People often consider the core language skills to be reading, listening, writing, and speaking, but I would also like to add culture as well. You could study Chinese for years, but without learning the culture, you won't know what types of food are popular for breakfast, or how Taiwanese students spend their free time.
The Apple Watch Series 10 is here. It has the biggest display ever. It's also the thinnest Apple Watch ever, making it even more comfortable on your wrist, whether you're running, swimming, or sleeping. And it's the fastest charging Apple Watch, getting you 8 hours of charge in just 15 minutes. The Apple Watch Series 10, available for the first time in glossy jet black aluminum. Compared to previous generations, iPhone XS or later required. Charge time and actual results will vary.
Kroger Delivery makes it easy to do your holiday shopping in a jingle. There might be a lot on your to-do list, but thanks to Kroger Delivery, you can get everything you need delivered straight to your door at the same great prices you'd find in store. Our refrigerated trucks always ensure that your groceries arrive fresh. And right now, you can save $20 on your first order of $75 or more and get free delivery with a Boost membership. Restrictions apply. See site for details. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
So what were the main benefits of studying at a language school? Well, I had a really structured environment. I took 3 hours of classes every day and was given a few hours of homework to complete to ensure I was studying at home. I had accountability with the regular tests. I needed to maintain a high score for my scholarships, and also regular feedback from teachers. The language school also gave me the opportunity to focus on all aspects of language. Every day we would practice speaking, listening, reading, and writing. There were also cultural classes, like the calligraphy one I mentioned, to better understand Taiwanese culture. Community was also a real benefit. I was able to meet fellow language students from around the world. I could also meet Taiwanese students who were interested in learning English. Being around people every day who wanted to improve and study Chinese kept me motivated and accountable. As the language school was in Taipei, a Chinese-speaking city, I was able to immerse myself in Chinese every day. I was surrounded by the language in and out of class. My teachers only used Chinese with us, never English. And outside of class, I would have the opportunity to use the language all the time. Of course, studying at a language school also comes with challenges and downsides. It can be expensive. I was fortunate on 3 fronts. Language school in Taiwan is not that expensive compared to other countries. My cost of living was low in Taipei, and I had a scholarship. Even so, I still struggled financially. My monthly stipend just about covered my tuition fees, dormitory, and the basic cost of living. If I wanted to eat something a little nicer or travel somewhere at the weekend, I needed to use my savings from the UK. Most people studying English in places like the UK, USA, or Australia will have far higher costs. Tuition fees will be much higher, cost of living much higher, and there probably aren't many scholarships available just for language study. You have to consider whether it is worth the money for you. And this is why language schools in places like the Philippines or Malta are so popular, because they're slightly cheaper. Language school is also relatively intensive. You are expected to do hours of homework every day, as well as preparing for upcoming classes and studying for exams. I also had tests or exams every week. As I was on a scholarship, I needed to maintain nearly 100% attendance. I never missed a class, of course, but I think I could only miss 1 or 2 classes a semester. And I had to have a high grade point average as well. For someone like me, who enjoys studying and a structured learning environment, language school was perfect. But it's not suitable for everyone. Some of my classmates struggled with the speed of classes or the intensive way of learning. If you prefer flexibility or self-study, language school may not be for you. I also had another challenge, the pandemic. COVID started in early 2020, just after I moved to Taiwan. Taiwan was the first place outside of China to start preparing for the pandemic. The borders were closed in late January, I think. Many of my classmates flew home in February and March, but I didn't want to spend the money rescheduling my flights. In the end, though, I had 3 flights cancelled back to the UK. I lost a lot of money when the company I booked my flights through went bankrupt, and I had to leave Taiwan a month early. This is also part of the reason why I failed to continue studying Chinese. I left Taiwan to return to the UK, but I was unemployed, and my plan to move to Japan was stuck as the border was closed. I started working at a local supermarket, and 3 months after arriving in the UK, I experimented with a new project in my free time, a podcast called Thinking in English. I just didn't have the time to continue studying Chinese, as well as working, doing Thinking in English, tutoring online occasionally, and studying Japanese. I loved my time at language school, but it's not for everyone. If you enjoy studying in a structured environment with clear goals, regular classes, and frequent feedback, language school might be perfect for you. It's also an excellent option if you want to immerse yourself in the language and the culture, especially if you study English at a language school in England, the USA, Australia, or another English-speaking country. Here are some of my tips for choosing the right school for you. First, research the curriculum. Make sure the school focuses on the skills you want to improve. For example, some schools emphasize conversational fluency, while others may focus on grammar or reading, and some on passing exams like IELTS. You should also look at reviews and recommendations. I chose my language school as my professor in London also studied Chinese there. Read blogs or reviews online, or ask friends or connections. In an upcoming bonus episode, I will interview someone who studied in London, and she may be able to give you some recommendations for language schools in the UK. You should also consider the location of the school. Choose a place where you'll feel motivated to learn and can engage with the local community. For me, studying in Taipei gave me daily opportunities to practice Mandarin Chinese outside of class. However, I wasn't in central Taipei, which let me have a quieter life and focus on studying. I also want to leave you with some tips on how to make the most of studying at a language school. Take every opportunity to practice with native speakers. Real-life interaction is invaluable. I used Chinese while ordering food, joining local events, or making friends. Embrace the challenge of studying. Dedicate yourself to it. Make it your full-time job, learning. Don't just focus on the textbooks, but also immerse yourself in the culture by trying local food, exploring traditions, or traveling. These experiences can deepen your connection to the language. And finally, beyond the school's curriculum or exams, set specific goals for yourself. What do you want to achieve from your time at a language school? So here is today's final thought. Attending language school was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. It gave me a structured and immersive environment to develop my Chinese skills, provided me with opportunities, and introduced me to some amazing people. However, it's not without challenges. It can be expensive, intense, and difficult. For those of you considering language school, I encourage you to think about your goals, learning style, and resources before making the decision. While my Chinese journey paused during the pandemic, the lessons and the memories from my time in Taiwan are still strong. But what do you think? Do you want to study English at a language school? Have you studied at a language school before? Let me know by leaving a comment. Comment on this episode on Spotify, or comment on YouTube if you listen on YouTube, or comment on my website, thinkinginenglish.blog. The link is in the description of this episode right now. Also, thanks to Lingoda for sponsoring this episode. If you're not able to go to England for 3 months to study English, why not sign up to a Lingoda language course? Lingoda Flex is a great deal. The link for that is in the description as well. And as always, you can support me on Patreon. You'll be able to listen to that upcoming interview with a person who studied in London. There's also hundreds of other bonus episodes, weekly conversation clubs, and classes and conversations with me, Tom. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.